Let's welcome first Affirmative to give us constructive speech. 请正方一辩上台申论。
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the first speaker from this side, and I'm going to be talking to you about why we should support the implementation of 12-year basic education. I'll begin by giving you an example, and I'll go on to discuss the problem we're facing now in our educational system. Then, I'll be telling you the two main reasons why we think we need 12-year basic education. Last, I'll give you a 12-year basic educational system that we think should be implemented. To begin with, I'd like to tell you a story about my classmate in junior high school. Some of my classmates quit school right after they graduated from junior high school, and one of them have told me that the reason why he gave up his studies is that his grades are not good enough for him to enter a public high school. So if he wanted to continue his studies, he needs to go to a private school. Unfortunately, the cost of private schools is pretty expensive. It's about 3 to 4 times of the cost of public school, and his family is not able to afford it. But he also told me that if he had a chance, he would still go to a high school. So the problem is that there are some people who want to go to a high school and continue their education, but didn't do well on the entrance exam. As a result, they couldn't go to a public high school. Besides, they at the same time don't have enough money to support them. So these reasons above and adds up and led to the fact that they quit their education at the age of 15. It's pretty surprising to find that statistics from Yuanjian magazine shows that in rural areas in Taiwan, 60% of the junior high school students think that their grades are not good enough to go to high school. And they also think that they are not as good as the students from the cities. But despite all these difficulties, over 86% of the students still want to go to high school. The first reason why we think that 12-year basic education should be implemented is that education should be equal to everyone. We can't stop students from further education just because they don't have enough money or just because they didn't do well on the exams. And we don't think that we can judge a 15-year-old teenager just by an entrance exam. Some people's talents are developed later, while some others are just too nervous to do well on the exams. So the entrance exam couldn't represent everything. Also, students who want to give up their studies are mostly because they have lost their interest in studies, and after all exhausting tasks in junior high school, they can't get enough confidence in their studies. We also observed that generally speaking, most of the students who didn't do well on their studies are often from poorer families, which have better educational resources. So if these students can get a better education, they would not have a chance to have better jobs. And chances are great that they would be poor like their parents. And this becomes a vicious circle. The other reason is that we should also put emphasis on multi-talents. For example, the students' talents in sports, arts, or music. In the educational system nowadays, we don't usually allow students to develop these kinds of talents properly. Most of the parents and teachers think that academic success and going to a good high school is the most important. So they would put a lot of pressure on these students. And the only thing the students could do is to study and have tests every day. And this is not the essence of education. Education aims for helping students to develop their interests and at the same time to help the students have the ability to learn something. And by cramming and pushing, students would only hate school more. The 12-year basic education we want should not have entrance exams when entering high school, so that students can go to school that they are suitable for them. And there, they could develop their own interests, or if they haven't found their interests, they can have 3 more years to find it out. And after high school, they can be more responsible for their future decisions. It's undeniable that our current education has some problems, So in order to make education more equal and more multi-developmental, we think that Taiwan should implement 12-year basic education. Thank you.
Now is the cross-examination of first affirmative and second negative. 请反方二辩上台质询。
Okay, then we're then assuming that by allowing these students to enter senior high school will give them a brighter future. And how to prove that?
Well, assume that you are now the boss in a company. Would you hire a student just graduated from junior high school and only 15 years old, or would you hire a student who is graduated from high school or more like college students?
Ma'am, as you have noted, the status quo is that students from poor family often do really badly in entering exam. They can only enter bad schools. In those private schools, how to ensure their quality of education?
What's the point of this?
You mean the point, ladies and gentlemen, the government is basically saying that we're going to send as many students as possible into senior high school without differentiating those senior high schools. There are some senior high schools that do not really properly train their students. That's what we're questioning. We're questioning about the quality of education, about their brighter future.
So we're going to send all the students to high school so that they can have proper education.
Yes, but in those private high schools, the problem is that first of all, there are a lot of students who do not like to study that will enter into private high schools that rank really low. Second, the teachers might not be as good as what you might assume to be. So their quality is actually at sacrifice. It's actually sacrificed during this process.
Yeah, but what we're saying is that we shouldn't have entrance exams, so all the schools are the same. So in these schools, there would be good students and not so good students. They can have each other to compete and to give them influences, so that students from poor families, they can look up to the students who are from richer family and for more resources to.
No, man, let us remind you that this is not true. Because in the current situation, everyone wants to squeeze their children, to send their children into better high schools. And there is a screening mechanism that is needed. Even if you exempt them from this, even if you abolish this entrance exam system, there will be other screening systems, such as like we have a lot of things like, according to the model of the government, of the Taiwanese government, we need to consider also also what they did in like arts and like public service and even like whether they live near to that school or not. So we think this mechanism still has some screening mechanism. This will render all of your arguments invalid.
But what we're going to support is the system that we think every school should be the same, just like junior high school in our current situation. So we're not supporting the thing you're talking about in what our government thinks.
Could you clarify that?
Well, we say before, we shouldn't have entrance exams. So all the high schools should be like what the junior high schools think to us. So students can learn whatever they want in there.
Okay, we also doubt your necessity of this policy because you said you want to emphasize on their multi-talent, but we tell you we have already like, when applying for a senior high school, we have already like affirmative action for them. People can get extra points when the application. Why do you need this policy in the first place if you want to solve your problem?
Because the policy is not enough.
How is it not enough?
There's no sufficient help in.
Now, let's welcome first negative to give us constructive speech. 请反方一辩上台申论。
the government side, their argument is if we can give more students the chances to go to high school, then they could receive better education and they could have a brighter future. But in my argument, I'm going to tell you why it is not the case. But before I tell you the reasons, first, I want to tell you the meaning of basic education. Well, we believe the purpose of basic education is to make people aware of basic knowledge as to help them be capable of living. So we support junior high school education because it teaches basic knowledge that we need to live in today's society. But actually, what students acquire in high school is not basic, but advanced knowledge that help you to have the ability for your further study and your further research in university. So that is why we don't think we should include high school education into the basic education we're now the governments are saying. And also we searched the definition from the International Standard Classification of Education. They also point out a very important one is basic education comprises primarily primary education and lower secondary education, namely junior high school education we now have. So now I told you the meaning of basic education, and now I want to tell you why their model is not effective. Well, basically, they think they could have a brighter future, right? But we're going to tell you, actually, a lot of students in junior high school, they've already found no interest in studying. So in junior high school, it is already a torture for them because they know their interests actually are not studies or something. But because of this policy, because actually government, by giving this policy, it sends a social message to the society that, oh, actually, we think 12-year education is very important. It can give you a brighter future. So actually, and also with a social value that parents, a lot of people think that if you want to be competitive enough, then you need to receive education in high school. So because of the policy and the rooted social value, a lot of parents would just send their children to enter high school. So it is kind of force their children to receive education in high school. So since high school, since high school education will be basic education under their model, they could graduate no matter how poor they perform in school. So the policy, we strongly believe, it not only can't meet the purpose of raising people's competence, but also hugely waste government's money, right? Because we have to spend extra money. Also, for those students, it's also a waste of time. And we think it's the most important part because since they've already shown strong interest in other fields, they don't like studies. They found their interest in other fields. Why force them to spend 3 extra years wasting their time? And now, the quality of education is my last argument. Because under their model, there will be no test. But first of all, if there's no test, there could be no incentive. Because people are humans, right? And we have human nature. That is, if you don't need to pass exam, do you want to spend time to study or just play out, hang out with your friends? Of course, it will be no incentive for students to work on their studies. Also, under their model, there will be like community-based high schools, right? And they also mentioned this high school will be like junior high school. But think about this: in junior high school, there are so many different students with different levels. It's very, very hard for teachers to teach because they don't know what kind of level they want to teach. So even though they think something is very important and they want to teach, but because there are different levels of students, they couldn't teach as much as they want to. Also, the second reason is because different levels of the students, some students, they don't want to study, they would don't want to pay attention to the class. And what's worse, a lot of them might make noises, might play in class, which will be a huge interruption and disturbance for teachers to teach and also for other students to learn. So this is why we believe it would decrease the education quality. So even though maybe under their model the students could go to high school, but the situation would like this. They couldn't receive better education because the education quality is low under their model. So this is why we strongly oppose their government's case. Thank you.
Now is the cross-examination of first negative and first affirmative. 请正方一辩质询反方一辩。
Sorry. Okay, so you said that some students show no interest in their studies when they are in junior high school. But how do you know that they have no interest? Or it might just because they haven't got any confidence in it, so they have no interest.
Well, if you can see from our experience in junior high school, we're so familiar with. You've already seen a lot of classmates when they're in class. Actually, they want to go outside and they make a lot of noise, showing no interest in the class that they're receiving. Also, because high school is for advanced study, it's extension of what you learn in junior high. If you couldn't master, if you couldn't do well in junior high school, how do you want the students who outperform junior high school to be success in senior high school?
And I have another question. How do you think that those people, those students who have no interest in no interest in studying in junior high school, won't have any interest after they graduate from junior high school? I have few examples that a few of my classmates that later found out that they love studies in senior high school, and then they started to study. So how about these students? If they don't have 12-year basic education, they have no chance to find out their interest in studies.
Well, actually, in junior high school, we've already providing them with enough 3 years for them to test whether they like Chinese, math, English, or something.
But I don't think 15 years old is old enough for students to think that they like study or not. We won't let a 7-year-old kid decide whether she or he wants to go to study. Wants to continue his study, so we shouldn't let a 15-year-old teenager to decide that.
But if a person who couldn't understand an easier thing, how do you want a student to understand harder things that you learn in high school?
So we need some changes in the educational system. The system should start from junior high school to senior high schools. And you say that it will decrease the quality of education in high school, but to the lowest part of the society, like the lowest part, the education they got is better than before. How do you think?
You mean in lower high school?
Yes.
In lower high school,
they will get better education than they had before.
Why? How come? Because students, they go to the lower high school actually are those students who didn't perform well in their junior high school. So actually, the students around them are students that don't like studying.
So what you're saying is students don't like studying, so we shouldn't let them study, is what you think?
No, we believe they could decide if they want to study or not. But we just say by this policy, you'll be passively forcing parents to send their children to high school.
But if you don't let these students to go to high school, they would not have chance to study because they have no money.
Why not? We've already said that we will give them a chance to study if they want, but we just want to mention now that a lot of students, their interest is not there.
So what you're saying is, and you say that high school's education is advanced. But what we want is to let high school education to become basic also.
Then you want to lower what you learn in university, which is for academic learning and Taiwan's competitiveness.
But do you...
Now, let's welcome second affirmative to give us constructive speech. 请正方二辩上台申论。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I will elaborate the clashes between our arguments. Then I will further explain why Taiwan should implement 12-year basic education. So, from they have discussed above, I found 3 clashes First of all, the negative side thinks that high school is for advanced knowledge, and that students should, basic education is only for basic knowledge, so they shouldn't move on to advanced knowledge. But as we have mentioned before, students in those 3 years, after completing junior high school, they will become 15, right? And we really don't think that a 15-year-old teenager can find out much about his future. So the further 3 years of senior high school education is for them to realize who they truly are. So that's the first clash. And the second is pretty much the same, that junior high school's students cannot actually decide their futures, so they have to advance their studies. And the third clash is that the negative side claims that since we are establishing so many high schools, the high school may have low qualities, but we have, first of all, we have to make all high schools equal so that we can advance to further studies. So now I will move on further to the reason why we should implement 12-year basic education. Okay, so now although there are some faults with the current policies, we cannot deny the whole goodness of 12-year basic education. Let me remind you again, by carrying out 12-year basic education, it not only brings equality among students, but also places emphasis on the individuality of each student, respecting their distinct talents and giving them more time to think about their future. According to a survey, those who have gone through high school education are more likely to acquire self-learning ability, and therefore they can always go back to learning whatever they wish. This proves why 12-year education is necessary. Therefore, 12-year education is the hope for every student. Through the practice of 12-year education, students from different regions no longer have to go all the way to big cities to attend high schools, since every locality will have its own. And since 12-year education requires no tuition, students from poor families can eventually go to high schools. For students with special talents, they will no longer be regarded as outcasts from a society which takes test results as everything. They are finally able to fully develop their talents. Take Ahao, a student I taught in an original tribe in Hsinchu, for example. He is so gifted that he draws vividly great pictures, but his family doesn't have the money for him to go to high school, and he should start working immediately after his junior high graduation. And also for the general students, those who are fond of studies can go to the best high school as they wish, and the rest can go to high school that are suitable for their capabilities. So a good educational system would benefit students of every kind, not merely the rich ones. Else it's like you and I both have this candy, but only I can taste the sweetness of it. So, as quoted from Tolstoy, happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. 12-year basic education benefits the happy and the unhappy families. And therefore, I don't see why the negative side is so afraid of changes. Change, like evolution, takes time. And we Homo sapiens didn't jump directly from Stone Age to modern age. We see the unfairness of the educational system in Taiwan, and 12-year education is the light of change. Therefore, our side firmly believes that Taiwan should carry out 12-year basic education. Thank you.
Now is the cross-examination of second affirmative and first negative.
Okay, good afternoon. You mentioned you want to have a tuition-free educational system, right? Okay, but why you want to have this because you want to help the poor, right? Want to help the poor people with this tuition-free policy.
Yeah. It's free, so it's the perfect.
Okay, then why don't you just single out the poor family and give money to them directly?
But that's not the point. We're talking about equality here. So this shall not be only put on the poor ones. Okay, so like it's this thing about social justice. Like you cannot only distribute this resources to the, for those who are the richest and with the most resources, and for those who are the poorest, 12-year
education can help them. Okay,
Yeah.
but why do we need to pay money to those rich people who already have a lot of money?
I'm not saying that they are paying money to those rich people.
So you only give the money to.
No, it's free of tuition. So entering, for those rich people, they can always find a way to go to the school they want. So they can go to private school as they wish. And for students who are foundative studies, they can go to schools that focus on academics. So it's focus on the characteristics of different students. It's not single out, the rich or the poor.
Okay, and you also mentioned you don't want to have entrance exam, right? But this way, where's the policy incentive for students to study if you don't have any strict selection?
They will have the exam, when they enter college. So we are not talking about just one exam here. We are talking about the exam to enter college. So, for a 15-year-old teenager who are supposed to face two biggest exams in their life to determine the rest of their life, we don't think we think it's unfair.
So basically, you're just postponing the stress for students.
Yeah, but for the 3 year of education for high school students, they have more time to think about what they actually need for the future, and they have more responsibilities to face the result of the exam.
Okay. And you also, in your previous speaker, you say you want to lower what teachers teach in senior high school, right?
We are not supposing that.
Basically, it came out from your previous speaker. You say you want to lower the high school teaching materials. But my question is, if you lower what students learn in high school, then it will decrease our quality in university. How are you going to approach this?
No, we are not supposing lowering any teaching materials in high schools. We are just saying that students of different characteristics, they can get the education suitable for them. So we are not supposing that we should lower the whole quality of education.
Okay, thank you. You also say your high school would be just like junior high school, and poor students, they could learn from good students, right? But don't you think it's just giving the poor students more stress and pressure?
Well, that depends on different characteristics of different students. So, that's also possible, but you cannot presume that, students...
Because they already didn't perform well in junior high school, and now in this class, there are a lot of great people there. How could you get ahead with them or get abreast with those people? You're just giving them pressure.
No, you can look ahead for them as well.
And you're just destroying their confidence. Thank you.
Now, let's welcome second negative to give us constructive speech. 请反方二辩上台申论。
Well, ladies and gentlemen, today the debate has been a little bit messy. And I think we would, as the opposition side, we want to ask a very general question to the affirmative side. We want to ask, how do we make sure that high school students, once they get into high school, will have a brighter future? We've identified several important issues in this debate. The first one is really about the necessity of this policy. On their side, the affirmative is assuming that people would need it anyway. But we told you, ladies and gentlemen, there are some students who have already lost interest in their studying. And on this point, the affirmative is saying, assuming that students who have lost interest in high school is, the phenomenon is totally due to the fact that they didn't achieve really high in academic field. We think, okay, that's possible, but we must not lose focus, because examinations themselves are not only about classifying, are not only about for pressuring students, but also about qualification, ladies and gentlemen. Because with the existence of entrance exams, ladies and gentlemen, high school students can be better classified into different classes. This is really important in terms of the quality of education. Consider this: the teacher can actually, because the students are already differentiated into different types according to the academic performances, we think that the teacher would be better. It would be much easier for the teachers to teach their students effectively, because it's really easier. They are more homogeneous. Second, if we think that very existence of examinations are really, really important, because with the entrance exam, we will force students and we'll incentivize students to study more, and therefore at the junior high school level, teachers will be easier for teachers to teach their to teach junior high school students who really want to pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen, consider their case. The reason why the affirmative side is going to abolish this exam system totally is that some students still want to get to private high school. This brings us to the next question. Is entering private high school a better choice for them, for their future? Ladies and gentlemen, as the affirmative went on and said, other podium, they already told us that these schools are from people who weren't as qualified as studying. In that case, even if they are really interested in studying, they are not qualified, because the results have already told us, ladies and gentlemen, that they have not been acquired with the materials that they are supposed to be acquired with. Also, on this class, we want to tell you also, there is no necessity on this point if you really want to make them get into better high school, because they can, take the exams again, and to make sure that they are qualified enough to get into that school to receive the quality education. We want the quality education to make sure that they will have a brighter future. Also, on the other point, there are some irrelevant points opened up by the affirmative side. They're talking about individuality, about multi-talent. We think this multi-talent, first we tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's no necessity. In the status quo, we already have this policy, giving students with extra performance, very good extracurricular performance, extra points in their admission when they are applying for senior high schools. Therefore, we don't really see the point. So let's just go back to our constructive cases, ladies and gentlemen. Let me remind you another point is about the tuition fee. The affirmative side is saying that they want everybody to enjoy free tuition to get into high school, ladies and gentlemen. Then consider this. Where does the money come from, ladies and gentlemen? Money has to come from citizens' hard-earned money, and we don't want this money to be wasted. We've already told you, ladies and gentlemen, they've lost interest. Even if they're not mature enough, they're not qualified. We want to make sure they're interested and qualified possible. So we've told you, we don't want governments to waste any money. So to summarize, first, we told you, ladies and gentlemen, that the harms is actually forcing students to waste time, to prolong their misery, ladies and gentlemen, for another 3 extra years when they don't really want to study. Second, there's a lack of necessity, ladies and gentlemen, because why do you want to subsidize the rich when they don't really need this policy? Second, we tell you, other lack of necessity, we have already allowed status quo to specify in this situation. How do you think the status quo is not sufficient? We probably oppose this motion. Thank you.
Now is the cross-examination of second negative and second affirmative.
Okay, first of all, my question is about the basic right of getting education education. So you think that students who are not qualified for good education, they should stop learning?
No, they should learn from other experiences like working. And ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you of this, ladies and gentlemen. Why, in the first place, does the affirmative side want to define this advanced learning in senior high school as basic education? Want to ask you that? Oh, sorry, please go on.
Okay, so this is actually very selfish of your negative side, because like each student shall receive the ability of getting qualified for education, and now you're eliminating.
Yes, but it's not qualified, ladies and gentlemen. Second, I want to tell you why we have social welfare tangible. They are, for those people who are really poor, they have already been tangible for social welfare. How do you think it's not enough?
Okay, so we are talking about for high school students who compete. I mean, for students who complete their high school studies, they are more likely to acquire the ability of self-learning, and so therefore they can always pick up.
They can learn things from job experiences as well, ladies and gentlemen. First, that's your assumption. Second, if they really do lose interest in their side of education. Yes, according to the survey, one was survey, ladies and gentlemen, we don't think evidence can prove anything. It only lends some sort of support to your assertion. Also, we tell ladies and gentlemen how to make sure we've told you that we lost interest. Second, even if they are not losing their interest, they are not qualified, how to make sure they can receive really the good quality of education that you assume they will be getting from senior high schools.
I mean, okay, so but you are still emulating the rights of those students who cannot perform well in their junior high school, and
we subsidize them, ladies and gentlemen.
You're eliminating their rights, to enter high schools and to get a better education.
Why would Simon? Please clarify again. Sorry.
I mean, you're eliminating the rights of the junior high school students. I'm not talking about the elite students. I'm also talking about the students from.
Okay, you have a very strange definition.
Let me finish. We are talking about the students from rural areas. I mean, the students who cannot get good education at the first place. I mean, after they complete junior high school education, they may not find their interest yet. They want to proceed, but they cannot proceed. And now you're eliminating their rights, and you're saying it's okay.
We have subsidies, ladies and gentlemen. They are already eligible for that.
But how are you? I mean.
In the South Korea, yes, they have subsidies. Yes, please.
But I mean, if they enter this 3-year of education, they will have more time to think about what they truly need, and now you're eliminating their rights.
How am I eliminating their rights in the first place, ladies and gentlemen? If they want to, then they work harder. They can earn something, like work part-time jobs, and they can actually learn a lot from job experience. We tell you, ladies and gentlemen, because the quality of private high school education is not as good as you expected, therefore sending them into those private schools won't help their future.
No, they will learn about their future. They have to figure out their own future. We are not saying schools should teach them about their future, but they have to figure out the future.
Yeah, how is that relevant to the motion?
So I mean, these 3 years of high school education can help them to figure out their future. I'm not saying it's
okay, but you waste a lot of time among the learner for them.
Getting an application, but this way they can get a good education.
Thank you.
Now is the 5 minutes preparation for the rebuttal speech. 结辩准备时间5分钟。